Actually leads us into Mrs. Tiberius's question of the night. It's kind of just a fun little segue. We were watching a video earlier today on one of those React channels, and the topic was actually it was the React channel, and the topic of the video today was they were doing like deep cuts of 80s songs, and like half the songs in there were not deep cuts. Like these were popular songs that were on the radio. Maybe the band wasn't as popular or kind of faded out. Only had like a 3 or 4 year run, maybe like a 2 or 3 hit kind of wonder. But like these were not deep cuts. Like Lady in Red, right? Like that's not a deep cut. I mean, that's one of the best one-hit wonders of the 80s. And people still play it for like their wedding song and stuff like that. And I think they play it a couple of times in the movie Dodgeball. Um, every time the one dude looks at the chick with the unibrow, they start playing Lady in Red. Like that's to me, that's not like a deep cut. Um, he put David Bowie's "Let's Dance." Like, oh, this is a deep cut. I'm like, that's not a deep cut. That's got one of the most famous instrumental openings like of all time. So the question was to you is like, what's like a deep cut 80s song that you really like and enjoy that maybe wasn't as might be by a popular band, but like wasn't one of their more popular hits, um, or maybe just a song that they never even released. That was just it was on the album, and it was like this should have been a single, but they never actually released it as a single. Because I assume everybody's, we're all in like the same age group, or even if you're a little younger, you probably know some 80s music. So, what does deep cut mean? It's like a deep track, right? It's not, if I say to you, Michael Jackson, like don't pick Thriller, don't pick, Billie Jean. Think of something that's a little further down in the catalog, right? Or maybe something that was on the Thriller album but wasn't a song that they released off of Thriller. Like that kind of thing. But you really love and you really enjoy that song. But it's not something where people are like, "Oh yeah, play some Michael Jackson," and then you're just going to go put on like the DJ is going to play like a random like no, they're going to play Thriller or something like that that everybody knows. So, as a 36-year-old boomer, you don't understand. There you go. Do Weird Al songs count as deep cuts? I mean, he has some, yes. Obviously, some of his songs, you know, the more popular the hit, the more popular the parody. I feel like was kind of the thing. You might think like, oh, speaking of Michael Jackson, he did, Eat It, and he did I'm Fat. Those are good parodies. But if you picked a song that was a little less popular, he's done like 800 parody songs. So that's what we were trying to think of a little bit, and she was like, "Well, maybe talk to the audience about that one tonight. See what they got in there. See if anybody comes up with Dirty Diana. Okay, so not quite as popular. Sure, that'd be a bit more of a deeper cut. There's an ad break. Thriller had a lot of number ones. Is Toto Africa a deep cut? No, that's actually Toto's most favorite famous song. So, Baconfish says "The Girl Is Mine" with Paul McCartney. Okay, I don't know that one, so that could certainly. Maybe I know it if I heard it, but that name doesn't ring any bells. Retro can't remember the name of the band, but the song is called "The Promise." Voltron thinks maybe some Aerosmith or Bon Jovi song. See, the one I picked was a Bon Jovi song, and it was "Lay Your Hands on Me." Because obviously, when you think of Bon Jovi, you think of like Bad Medicine and Shot Through the Heart, and of course, Living on a Prayer they play constantly, right? But for me, "Lay Your Hands on Me" was a song I loved very much because I was alive in the 80s. And I remember, you know, listening to like stuff like that on the radio or on the cassette player because I'm old. Not as old as Moopsy, but I'm old. Doug says New Order, Bizarre Love Triangle. So New Order had, was it Blue Monday? Is that their song? That says it's The Promise is by Queensryche. Okay, there you go. Because that's a band that certainly had a couple of hits. I should write some of these down because she's going to be like, so what do people say? And I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, they rattled off a bunch of them, and I forgot to write any of them down. Freebird? Yeah, no, not quite. Yeah, Silent Lucidity, I think, was probably their bigger hit. Yeah. uh, yeah. Les, that's basically like putting one of the most popular songs of the 70s. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Let's go back. Let me write a couple of these down. I should just type this out, but I'm going to handwrite it. By the way, Just Q, thank you for the 25 bits and for rolling on in. Doug, I don't even know that band, so okay. Maybe I have a new favorite. I just didn't realize. Somebody just didn't make it popular. Resilient. Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone by Glass Tiger. Okay. Zero G likes Halo by Depeche Mode. See, Depeche Mode, another band that had, you know, 4 or 5 big songs. So obviously something that's a little further down, maybe on an album that didn't quite get released. Would certainly qualify as a deep cut, a deep track. Sure. Metallica Orion. Now that's not a song. Again, I'm bad with song titles sometimes. Divino's called I Touch Myself. Yeah, no, that was a pretty popular song. It was also in Austin Powers. It's what he's dancing to when he makes all the fembots' heads explode. I just tell her to watch the stream instead. Okay. Netniv. All right. Let's see what else we got in here. Uneasy Rider by the Charlie Daniels Band. I've heard of them. That's Devil Went Down to Georgia, right? So. Okay. As a child born in 1980, it really was the last best decade of good music. Well, we got a bunch of good stuff going on in here. Brain Soup throwing out LL Cool J's The Breakthrough. Retro's throwing out The Promise by the band When in Rome. All right. This was a good question. Toy Soldiers by Martika. Nah, it's not exactly a deep cut. That was her one-hit wonder, which Eminem later sampled. It's not a popular song as much today, but it was a huge one-hit wonder back then. And then, obviously, when Eminem sampled it, it got a rebirth and went back to, a top 10 song from everybody pulling it back out. So, what's the category? 80s deep cuts? Yes, it is Ultravetica. We've rattled off quite a few of them. Iron Fister resubscribed for 6 months at tier 1. Thank you very much for the resubscription. Appreciate that. Welcome on in, sir. Is it only music from America? I mean, sometimes music knows no boundaries, right? Especially these days with the everything that's on the internet. So, your first rap song was MC Hammer's "Can't Touch This." I mean, that was kind of a lot of people's first experience with that type of music because it got more mainstream popularity, and he was dancing around in those ridiculous pants, which got him a lot more attention and airtime. And apparently, he was not a very nice man, and was a bit more connected. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't mess with him because some people gonna disappear, kind of stuff that he may or may not have gotten credit for. Asheville's following the channel too. Okay. Bacon Fish on a movie soundtrack. You're gonna say Pinball Wizard by Elton John. Well, Pinball Wizard is the Who, right? The follow-up single to Pet Shop Boys' West End Girls is a decent song called Love Comes Quickly. Okay, there you go. Now see, that was one that was in the video. And I'm like, this isn't a deep cut. I mean, it's a band, it's a band not a lot of people heard of since the 80s, but it was a very popular song in the 80s. And if you're looking up lists of like 80s songs, Pet Shop Boys, West End Girls would come up as probably, a song very representative of the 80s music style. But we're going to put that one on the list too. Love Comes Quickly. Yeah, so we were very offended by some of the song selections. Now, again, it was, the React guy was an older guy who's obviously talking to kids who were like, 18 to 22. It's like, we're playing a bunch of deep cuts from the 80s. It's like anybody who was alive in the 80s, like, knew two-thirds of those songs. It was like, these aren't deep cuts. These were played on the radio ad nauseum at sometimes. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, Netniv and Cree are having their own little game over here where they're trying to see who can get the bigger earworm stuck in each other's heads. It's a fun game. It's usually when I take over and I just start going, there's all kinds of fun stuff. Tell me you remember the song. You know what? I might have to go listen to it to find out. Maybe it comes. Maybe I just don't. Maybe I don't remember the band or the name of it. But we'll do some follow up at the next stream. Rewatch the music video for Baby Got Back. The butts were not that big. No, but the ones in the background are. The ones that are the stage that he's like dancing in front of. Uh, the girls themselves did not have overly large blister in the sun. No, that's like another quintessential 80s song. And pretty much, if you ask people about a violent femme song, that might be the only one that most people know. Uh, I wouldn't think that's a deep cut. Butts are bigger now because of inflation. And that Brazilian butt lift thing that they do. RSD is an 80s child. George Michael was still straight, Michael Jackson was still black, and America was normal. Well, 2 out of 3 there at least. Hip thrusts and Bulgarian squats. There you go. I think it's the Brett Michaels coined it. It's the tour bus thrust. That's what you got to do. It was part of the exercise routine that he was creating. It was the tour bus thrust. What's up, Ascaron? Why can't you get just one what? What you trying to get? It's all start out. I can't see it. Anything from Rocky Horror Picture Show would not count as a deep cut. Anything from Richard Marx on that list? He had 2 or 3 big hits, for sure. He was kind of on top of the world for a couple of years there. What's up, Bensai? Okay. Driving My Life Away by Eddie Rabbit. Okay. All right. Well, this was a fun little excursion. And thank you guys all for participating. I have a whole list of songs to bring back to her, which I'm sure we'll probably spend later tonight or tomorrow checking out some of those. Ultravetica has the second. All right, this one I'll write this one down. Last one I'll write down because it's Martika has a follow up, so she's not just a one-hit wonder, maybe. She had a nice voice. That Toy Soldier song was all over the place, though, for sure. Absolutely played ridiculously in that, what, 88, 89, whenever it came out. So, well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Sometimes these questions, can be a little hit or miss, and I feel like tonight was definitely a big hit, so